ask for help when you need it and ask early. You should be aware that you have a librarian. Every discipline on campus is supported by a librarian, a subject specialist who understands that field. Having a Zoom class or you're meeting in teams or collaborate, you kind of throw into the chat, do you have a minute to talk after class, and just stay in the room and talk to the professor? Because of course, when you're on campus, that's often how you interact with someone. So you sort of hang back and say, oh, this is this really interesting idea you brought up, or I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about this. And so you can still do that even in the online setting.
I have virtual office hours. Come and see me. If you can't make my virtual office hour, send me an email and I promise I will set a time to meet with you. Nothing makes me happier than getting to know my students. I'm still in contact with students from 10 years ago that share what's going on in their life, and we still talk children's books. And if you have an interest, if your professor talks about something, even if it's just, I volunteer at the zoo on Saturdays once a month, and you go, oh, I'm really interested in animal conservation, even if it's not the topic of the class, talk to your professor about it, because if they're passionate about it, they will love to talk to you about it.
Is sometimes students will search the web and find interesting materials that complement what's going on in class. And I've had a number of students who will say, I found this great video, or I found this great web page, or I'm reading a book that talks about something similar to what we're doing in class. In general, don't feel shy about suggesting that to faculty. They love to see what students are digging up. And often, sometimes it has a little bit of a unique bent. It sort of says a little bit about who you are based on what you find on the web and what your personal interests are.
Another tip, especially if you feel like the professor in the online class, especially if it's asynchronous, isn't offering a way for you that feels easy to connect or something like that. You know, there's a lot of ways people have already mentioned, including for example, my online courses include what I call a social discussion board. And I actually reward students for answering each other's questions. And I have to say, that's one of the best things about teaching online is I get to know my students in this whole way I would never know in an in-person class, which is how they help each other outside of class. And also they do things like post pictures of their pets and stuff. And I participate in it too. So, I mean, when those things are offered, you should definitely do that. But if you feel like you're having trouble connecting with the professor, a lot of times just asking a question that's like a follow-up or something you're more curious about, there's nothing like getting a professor to talk, like asking them something about what they know best and what they love to talk about most.